Have you ever walked through a garden and felt like the earth itself was whispering a story? Like every weathered piece of wood and every wild flower had a history and a purpose? Today, I want to show you a way to build garden borders that feel ancient, gentle, and magical using materials many people overlook. Driftwood, broken tile, soil, and thyme. That's all. Welcome to Backyard Fortune. This channel is built on simple ideas, peaceful design, and creativity that grows with your hands. You'll find timestamps in this video, so feel free to explore at your own pace. And if you ever have questions, the comments are always open. If you enjoy this project, try it with whatever you already have. Perfect isn't the goal here. Meaning is, craft it slowly. Let nature help. Build with heart. And before we dive in, I want to share something real. Maybe to you I'm just someone behind a screen, but to me, this channel is a small dream held up by love, effort, and hope. Every click, every kind word, every subscription keeps it going. You're not helping a creator, you're helping a family continue dreaming. Thank you for being here and for believing in simple beauty. One, whispering willow woven fence. Imagine stepping into a garden where nothing rushes. The light is soft, the air smells faintly of earth and herbs, and every movement feels like it belongs to the rhythm of nature itself. Along the edge of this peaceful space, a willow fence rises quietly like a poem written in branches. It isn't perfect, and that is precisely its charm. Each twig seems to remember the wind that once shaped it, each curve carrying a whisper of the forest it came from. The fence bends gently with the land, never fighting it, always flowing with it. And at its feet, tiny wild strawberries blush against soft moss, sharing space with lavender, thyme, and the occasional chamomile bloom. Bees drift lazily around them, butterflies seem almost weightless in the warm air, and the world feels soft enough to breathe inside. This kind of fence, woven by hand from willow branches or any flexible pruned wood you have access to, has served gardeners for centuries. Not because it is complicated or expensive, but because it is kind. Kind to the land, kind to the eyes, kind to the heart. You feel it as your fingers guide each branch between the posts. Over, then under. Rhythm, repetition, calm spreading the more you weave. Some shoots will even sprout again, sending tender green leaves into the world as if reminding you that what you build can live too. Building one is simpler than it looks. Fresh branches bend easily, so pruning after rainfall or finding storm-fallen limbs is the perfect moment. No nails, no machines. Just time, patience, and the way your hands learn the natural give of the wood. Anchor a sturdy stake, then another, and let the fence grow between them one slender rod at a time. Follow the gentle curve of your garden bed, or circle a young tree so roots stay protected. Let mushrooms cluster naturally in the cool soil beneath. Allow clover and thyme to soften the edges like lace. And if you plant peas or beans nearby, they will gladly accept the invitation to climb. A fence like this does more than divide space. It frames moments. It holds back just enough of the wild while inviting the wild to stay close. It keeps strawberries safe from wandering feet, creates a tender sense of enclosure around herbs and flowers, and welcomes children, birds, and passing insects to explore. It feels like something you inherited from stories told long ago, and yet you can make it completely your own. In a world full of noise, a handmade fence like this reminds us that beauty can come from humble things gathered with intention. That patience has its own reward. That nature does not need to be controlled to be kind to us. If you begin one day, you'll notice how the world slows a little. How the branches teach you to listen. How the fence slowly becomes less a structure and more a part of the garden itself. And when you step back at the end of the day, dirt under your nails and sun on your shoulders, you may find yourself smiling without meaning to. Because in the quiet weave of wood and thyme, you didn't just build a fence. You built a feeling. Two, modern rustic pallet slat fence. There is a certain kind of peace that settles over a garden when wood meets sunlight and the scent of herbs hangs gently on the air. You feel it most in spaces like this one, where the simple rhythm of horizontal timber creates a quiet backdrop for life to unfold. Slatted wood, warm and honest, lets the breeze slip through and carries birdsong like a soft thread weaving across the yard. It doesn't try to dominate the garden. It simply frames it, holding a sense of order so that everything else can breathe. A pallet slat fence like this is a gift to anyone who wants beauty without complication. Each plank earns its place not through perfection, but through character. Slight grain variations, a knot here, a soft curve there. Sanded pine left in its pale innocence, walnut stain deepening into a rich chocolate warmth, charcoal boards giving a modern whisper of elegance. Light lands differently on each, shifting mood with the season, with the hour, with the heart of the person who stands there. Raised beds sit in front, full and content, like old friends leaning in close to one another. Tomatoes climbing quietly up twine frames, basil clustered in thick fragrant mounds, rosemary upright and proud. Marigolds burst with color, drawing pollinators and warding off pests in a way that gardeners have trusted for generations. Gravel paths crunch softly underfoot, giving each step its own gentle voice. You can almost feel the early morning air here, cool against the skin, heavy with dew, promising growth. The beauty of this fence is not only in its appearance, but in its accessibility. Pallet wood is humble and forgiving. It doesn't demand perfection or expensive tools. Take time choosing planks that feel sturdy and alive. A simple sanding brings out their natural grain. A coat of natural oil or stain protects them from the sun and rain. Set your posts straight, then let the board stretch across like calm ocean waves. Leave small gaps so the wind can move, so shadows fall in soft stripes, so your garden never feels boxed in. Notice how the fence becomes more than a barrier. It becomes a canvas. A place where ivy can trail in slow green cascades. Where a planter box can spill parsley toward the ground like lace. Where a bench made from leftover boards waits for a quiet moment, coffee in hand, lavender nearby, bees moving slow circles in the warm air. You don't just build structure, you build posture. A posture of rest, of belonging, of quiet pride in knowing you shaped a space that breathes. If you ever feel intimidated by projects like this, start small. One panel. One raised bed. One pot of basil that greets you each morning. Skill grows like a plant, with light, with patience, with the willingness to try. And soon enough, you'll look across a garden framed with wooden life and feel a quiet joy settle in your chest. Because you made this haven, board by board, moment by moment. In a world that often rushes, this kind of creation brings us back to the pace of soil and sun. Slow, steady, gentle. And as the butterflies dance and the herbs release their fragrance, you realize this fence doesn't just hold up your garden. It holds up a feeling that home can be both simple and beautiful, handmade and full of grace. Three, rebar living vine fence. There is a quiet magic in watching something climb toward the light. A seed that once slept in darkness suddenly stretches, searching, and the garden makes room for new life. A rebar vine fence invites that gentle ascent. Simple metal lines, honest and unpolished, rise from the soil like a promise, and the vines accept their invitation with grace. With time, leaves begin to whisper against one another. Blossoms arrive like shy notes in a soft song. And slowly, a curtain of green forms, swaying with the breeze, breathing with the garden. You don't need elaborate carpentry or expensive hardware to build a living wall like this. Rebar is humble and strong, easy to find, and deeply patient. Push each rod into the earth, or set them into posts if you prefer permanence. Stretch simple steel wire between them. Keep the lines straight, but allow the garden to soften them. A little imperfection only deepens the charm. Then plant generosity at their feet. Jasmine if you love fragrance, honeysuckle for the bees, clematis for elegance, grapes if you dream of harvesting fruit under dappled shade someday. Morning sun touches each leaf gently, turning moisture into pearls for a brief moment before the day warms. In raised beds nearby, lettuce and spinach lift their crisp heads. Chives stand proudly like thin green spears. Soil stays cool beneath the canopy. Butterflies float through like passing thoughts. And the air carries a soft hum, the sound of bees moving from one bloom to the next with steady devotion. When vines climb freely, the garden feels less planned and more alive, as if nature is joining the work with you. There's beauty in starting small. One panel at first, then another. A single vine curling around a wire, then two. Over time, what begins as a simple structure becomes a living screen that offers privacy without closing the world out. It breathes with the wind. It filters the light. It creates shelter for birds and resting places for insects. And one morning, you'll notice grapes forming or flowers opening before breakfast, and you'll realize the fence has become a part of your life in a way that walls of wood or stone never could. If you choose to build this, let your hands move patiently. Let each plant grow at its own pace. Train vines with soft ties only when needed, and trust them to find their way. Water deeply, especially in the first season. Mulch around the roots to hold moisture and feed the soil. And visit the fence often, not just to tend it, but to enjoy it. Stand beneath an arch of green, if you choose to build one, and listen to the gentle rustle of life unfolding above your head. A trellis like this doesn't merely hold plants. It holds a feeling, the quiet understanding that nature doesn't rush, yet everything gets done. It holds morning light like a blessing, evening shade like a sigh. And in the spaces between the metal lines and the leaves, you may find something settling inside you too. Something still. Something grateful. In a world that asks us to move quickly, a rebar vine fence teaches us to grow slowly, to reach upward with softness, and to celebrate small progress. And as vines weave themselves into the rhythm of the garden, you'll feel it. The breeze, the earth, the gentle promise that beauty often begins in the simplest places, with the simplest materials, and the quiet willingness to nurture something day by day. (4) Earth and clay block garden edge. There's a special kind of beauty in things shaped by hand and sun. In soil that has known rain and roots and seasons. When you see clay blocks like these resting along the edge of a garden bed, you can feel the story beneath them. Earth gathered, pressed, dried in warm air until it becomes strong enough to hold growth, yet humble enough to crumble back into the land someday. The cracks are not flaws. They are the memory of moisture leaving, of time passing, of nature leaving its signature. And somehow, that makes them perfect. In gardens like this, borders don't shout for attention, they hold space gently. They cradle herbs and vegetables the way cupped palms cradle a small seedling. Rosemary stands tall with quiet confidence, lavender hums with scent and bees, sage fans out in soft silver green. Alongside them, radishes sit like rubies under rich dark soil, chamomile nods in clusters of tiny white petals, and thyme spills softly over the edges like lace laid across stone. Moss finds tiny homes inside the clay's creases, the way nature always finds a place to rest if we let it. Butterflies drift in on warm morning light as though invited. Birds hop between daisy blooms, unconcerned with time or tasks. To build something like this is not complicated. It begins with earth. Clay, sand, straw if you want strength the old way. Mix with water until the soil feels like firm dough beneath your palm. Pack it into molds, or shape it with your hands, knowing that each block will be slightly different, like leaves on the same branch. Let them sunbathe. Let wind and warmth finish what your hands begin. Days later, they have become something else entirely, sturdy, warm, honest. And when you lay them in gentle curves around your garden, you give your plants a border that feels alive with them, not separate from them. The charm of earthen edges is not only in their looks, but in their spirit. They soften a garden rather than containing it. They remind you that growing food and flowers is not just a task but a relationship. Soil meets clay meets plant meets sun. All of it breathing together. Light in the morning catches on the rough surface, making even humble herbs feel special. And when dew rests in the tiny cracks at sunrise, it feels like watching jewels form in slow motion. If you try this yourself, take your time. Let your hands sink into the soil. Work in quiet moments if you can, when the world hasn't fully woken. Shape each block with patience. Place them where you want calm to settle. And watch what happens. Wild thyme will creep around them, chamomile will spill gently toward paths, moss will nestle in tiny corners, as though the earth recognizes its own shape and returns home. A garden like this doesn't chase perfection. It celebrates softness, texture, presence. It shows us that beauty isn't always polished. Sometimes it's clay under your nails, sunlight warming your shoulders, a butterfly landing just long enough to notice you're there. And at the end of the day, when the light turns golden and the shadows grow long across soil and brick and leaf, you may feel it, that simple gratitude of having made something with your own hands from the earth beneath you. In the quiet moment between work and rest, your garden will breathe beside you. And you will understand that these blocks do more than border a bed. They honor the soil that feeds us, the patience that shapes us, and the gentle truth that the best gardens grow not only food, but peace. Five, tiny log woodland border. Sometimes, beauty arrives quietly. A row of humble branch cuttings, stood upright like tiny woodland sentries, can transform a garden edge into something that feels alive, almost tender. Each piece of wood carries its own pattern of rings, its own soft bark texture, its own small story from a tree that once reached toward the sky. Placed side by side, they become a miniature forest guardianship, protecting herbs and flowers with gentle simplicity. Look closely and you'll see nature weaving herself into the scene. Moss gathers like green velvet at the bases. Clover and wild strawberries creep softly around the edges, their leaves glossy, their fruit like drops of summer sweetness. Daisies stand behind in bright white clusters, smiling toward the sun, while ferns unfurl in quiet grace. Sometimes a ladybug will pause on one of the logs, as if checking to make sure everything is growing just right. Sometimes a sparrow will land, curious and light. Mushrooms appear unexpectedly after rain, soft reminders that the soil here breathes and lives. This kind of border doesn't demand much. Just fallen branches, pruned limbs, or unwanted wood from a neighbor's trimming day. Cut each piece to roughly the same height, or let them vary slightly for a more natural rhythm. There is no need to sand them smooth. Texture is part of the charm. Press them into damp soil or tap a shallow trench to nestle them in. Work slowly. Adjust spacing by feel. Let instinct guide your hands rather than a ruler. Gardens respond kindly to gentleness. As sunlight filters through nearby tree branches, the little fence casts short, playful shadows. Herbs inside, perhaps thyme and chamomile, or a patch of sweet mint, reach forward as though grateful for such a thoughtful enclosure. A soft bed of moss and pine needles collects underfoot, muting sound and deepening the sense of calm. In the golden hour, dew lifts into the air, and for a moment the whole space glimmers as if enchanted. It is a kind of magic that only happens when nature and handwork meet. This project is forgiving by nature. It suits beginners, dreamers, and anyone who craves a quiet moment outdoors with a pair of pruners and a basket. Use what you have. Let the shape of the branches tell you how to place them. Over time, the wood will soften, age, welcome lichen, and blend into the landscape like it always belonged there. And when you kneel down to tend the soil or pick a stray strawberry, you'll realize that nothing about this border is merely decorative. It is a gesture, a small act of care, an invitation for the garden to feel held, but never confined. In a world where many things rush and demand polish, this kind of edging reminds you to move slower, to appreciate small textures, to notice tiny wings and quiet growth. It is proof that sometimes the most charming things are made not from grand plans, but from simple materials, patient hands, and the willingness to let nature do half the work. And as the wind moves through leaves above you and the first evening fireflies lift from the grass, you may feel it settling in your chest, a gentle, grounded happiness that only a handmade garden can give. Six, small rustic stone gabion fence. There is a steady kind of beauty in stone. Unlike wood that softens and fades, or flowers that bloom and pass, a pebble carries its history quietly, rivers rolling over it, seasons brushing against it, time polishing it smooth. When gathered and held in a simple wire frame, those stones become more than decoration. They become a grounding presence in the garden, a quiet wall that feels ancient and handmade all at once. A small gabion border like this doesn't try to dominate the space. Instead, it settles into the landscape, sturdy but gentle, allowing time to spill softly over the edges and moss to nestle between stones like soft green clouds. Lavender rises behind in fragrant purple waves, sage stretches broad leaves toward the sun, and the air hums with the light, busy wings of bees and butterflies visiting, savoring the early morning quiet. Sometimes a robin will pause atop the metal frame, chest bright, head alert, surveying its tiny kingdom of carrots and lettuce with quiet pride. The charm lies in its simplicity. To build one, all you need is wire mesh or rebar panels and a collection of stones, river pebbles, field rocks, or even stones rescued from an old path. Fill slowly, placing larger shapes first, tucking in smaller pieces to keep them steady. Don't worry about perfect alignment. Let shapes differ, let gaps appear naturally, let moss take the invitation to grow. If your climate is damp, nature will soften the structure for you in time. If not, you can encourage growth by brushing a little yogurt or compost tea across shaded stones and misting gently for a few days. Patience in the garden always rewards you. This kind of edging is practical too. It holds soil neatly, keeps mulch where it belongs, and create subtle height that defines flower beds and vegetable plots without feeling rigid. In warm months, the stones radiate heat softly into nearby plants at dusk, offering comfort the way a hearth keeps a room warm after the fire is out. And when you sit nearby on a wooden bench, watering and resting at your feet, you can feel the calm of it. It's the sort of structure that steadies a space, gives it rhythm, and invites you to stay a little longer, to listen to leaves rustle and watch a bee hover above clover blossoms. A gabion doesn't ask you to be perfect, it asks you to be present. To gather what the land offers. To build slowly, with your hands and your breath moving in steady rhythm. Let texture guide you. Let sunlight show you which stones catch warm tones and which ones cool the scene. If you plant herbs along the top edge, choose varieties that like to spill and soften. Creeping thyme, chamomile, or little trailing strawberries whose fruit hangs like jewels along the wire. And in the quiet of an early evening, when light filters through apple branches and daisies sway with tiny bees drifting like golden dust, you may find yourself resting your palm on the stones. Cool, solid, familiar. A touch that reminds you that gardens aren't just grown. They are built by moments like this. Hand to stone, soil to seed, breath to stillness. Living things supported by lasting ones, and lasting things made gentle by time. In that balance, a small gabion border finds its place. Strong enough to endure seasons. Soft enough to welcome wildflowers and moss. A handmade whisper in the garden that says, "Here we grow, quietly, steadily, beautifully." Seven, painted tire bloom fence. There is something quietly enchanting about breathing new life into things once forgotten. When you place an old tire in the garden, repaint it softly, then fill it with soil and blooms, suddenly it is no longer waste. It becomes part of a living story. A circle that used to turn on roads now frames lavender, chamomile, delicate alyssum, or a small patch of sweet strawberries. A border that guides the eye and gently protects what grows inside. With nothing more than soft sage tones, warm creams, dusty rose, or terracotta shades, these recycled tire planters blend into nature instead of competing with it. Avoid glossy paint. Matte finishes always feel calmer and more organic, like the surface of old clay pots in a countryside garden. A little sanding before painting helps the color grip well. And a small drain hole at the bottom ensures rainwater does not collect. Simple steps, but they make all the difference. You can keep the tires upright for a sculptural border, or tilt and stack them playfully like layered stones in a fairy meadow. Fill them with good soil, mix in compost so blooms have strength, and let flowers tumble from the opening like tiny waterfalls. Lavender, thyme, rosemary, marigolds, pansies, chamomile, or creeping alyssum thrive beautifully in shallow planting pockets like this. Even strawberries will happily spill their fruit over the edge, offering sweetness to you and to birds who love to visit. Sometimes, the smallest touches complete the magic. A mossy base. A stepping stone path nearby. A robin perched for just a moment before fluttering away. When tires soften into gentle garden rings, and bees drift lazily around golden petals, the garden feels less like a project and more like a little world where time moves slowly. And the best part, you don't need perfection. Imperfection makes it real. Weather marks, brush textures, small chips in the paint, a touch of wild grass around the border. These tiny details whisper that this space is loved, not staged. Built by hand, not by machines. Upcycling is not only about saving materials. It's also about honoring them. About seeing a future where others see the end. That's what makes a garden feel like a sanctuary, the way it reflects patience, creativity, and the quiet joy of tending to life. So if you ever find old tires stacked behind a garage, don't see waste. See possibilities. See blooming borders, fresh herbs, summer blossoms, and soft earth beneath your fingertips. See a garden that breathes with memory and renewal. Begin with just one tire, one bloom, one brush stroke of color. Let nature do the rest, slowly, gently, beautifully. Because magic is not always found in what is new. Sometimes, it grows from what we choose to keep, cherish, and transform with love. Eight. Wire mesh living garden fence. Sometimes, the most beautiful gardens don't begin with wide open fields or endless space. They begin with a small idea and a willing hand, a belief that even a simple fence can bloom into a living tapestry. Here, wire mesh and weathered would become more than structure. Lined gently with coconut fiber and filled with rich earth, they transform into a vertical cradle for life. Strawberries peek through the small squares like shy garden jewels ripening under sunlight. Tiny herbs stretch forward, trailing softly as if tasting the morning air. Even moss finds a quiet home along the timber edges, adding age, depth, and a touch of ancient woodland magic. This is gardening that grows upward, not outward. Perfect for small spaces, balconies, or any corner seeking charm and green. The trick is to start snug. Pack the soil firmly inside the mesh so roots stay cozy. Choose trailing plants or climbers, herbs that enjoy tight nooks, or flowers with delicate blooms. Water slowly, let the soil drink instead of rushing through. Coconut fiber holds moisture well, creating a soft nest where roots rest cool and safe. And your fence doesn't just mark boundaries. It becomes a gentle whisper of nature in motion. Bees hum lazily around blossoms. Birds pause along the top rail like tiny visitors curious about your growing world. Soft rays of sunrise turn every leaf translucent, every petal like stained glass. What's lovely is how forgiving this idea is. Imperfect wood looks charming. Mesh that's slightly bent feels rustic, lived in, human. A fence like this doesn't demand perfection. It grows with you, slowly, kindly. It asks only for sunlight, a little water, and your desire to welcome life where once there was only empty space. If you've ever dreamed of a garden that climbs, spills, and breathes softly against the morning breeze, maybe this is the moment to begin. One frame, one panel, a few pockets of earth, and suddenly, your garden stands taller. Nine. Painted cinder succulent border. Some gardens begin with grand plans. Others begin with a small block, a quiet morning, and a feeling that beauty can rise from the simplest materials. Cinder blocks, often overlooked and left resting in dusty corners, take on a new story here. Not as construction scraps, but as vessels of life. With soft coats of earthy paint, gentle cream, muted sage, warm terracotta, these sturdy blocks turn into a calm rhythm along the soil. Their surfaces catch the early light, tiny shadows forming in the textured concrete like brush strokes on a canvas. Inside each opening, small roots stretch into a world of rich soil, where succulents nestle and thyme drapes softly as if it has always lived here. The magic lies in contrast, hard edges cradling soft green life, rough texture supporting velvety foliage. It is a border, yes, but also a pocket garden. A humble row that holds herbs, flowers, and quiet detail. Let your block pockets cradle plants that adore tight nooks, creeping sedum, tiny daisies, or even a little mint if you give it gentle boundaries. Fill holes loosely at first, then press soil down with your fingertips, giving it steadiness. Water lightly, especially with succulents. They don't ask for much, just a warm place and a little care. Around them, the garden breathes. Rosemary grows upright like a fragrant guardian. Basil swells with summer promise. Butterflies drift lazily from lavender to marigold as if the morning were made just for them. Even moss gathers shyly at the base, where cool earth meets stone. The charm of this idea isn't in precision, it's in honesty. Blocks may not line up perfectly. Paint might wear over time. A few mushrooms may pop up after rain, curious and temporary. But nothing here needs to be flawless to feel right. It's the softness of living things paired with the quiet strength of reused materials that creates peace. If you have a few spare blocks tucked away, this might be the moment to bring them into the light. Arrange them by instinct. Paint if you wish, or leave them raw. Let plants spill, climb, and settle. And before you know it, you'll look down and realize your hands have built a small sanctuary, one square at a time. Sometimes, beauty isn't planted in wide flower beds. Sometimes it grows, almost secretly, in the hollows of ordinary things. Driftwood and mosaic fairy border. There is something quietly magical about the way nature softens time-worn things. Driftwood, once shaped by tides and storms, rests here like gentle guardians of the garden. Their grain tells stories of long journeys, yet now they stand still, holding space for lavender, chamomile, and thyme to breathe and grow. Beside them, pieces of broken tile find new purpose, shimmering softly in morning sun, arranged by hand into little mosaics that look almost like sea glass washed ashore. This kind of border doesn't shout. It hums. A soft coastal tune drifting through rosemary leaves and clover blossoms. Butterflies pause, bees hover with delicate intention, and occasionally a curious robin hops along the wood, as if checking your handiwork. It feels like a garden caught between land and ocean, between memory and possibility. If you ever stumble across driftwood on a beach or riverbank, bring a few pieces home. Let them dry fully before using, and brush off any loose fibers. Natural cracks and worn edges are part of their charm. Resist the urge to sand them smooth. The character is what brings warmth. Pair them with broken tiles or leftover ceramics, pressing each piece into a bed of mortar or strong outdoor adhesive. There's no rush. Let your hands move slowly, placing shapes like you're building a small poem in stone. Curved paths work beautifully here. So do edges around herb beds and little pockets of moss. Clover creeping at the base softens everything, turning the space into a living painting. If you're planting near the border, think in textures and scents. Lavender brushing the breeze, thyme tumbling forward, chamomile nodding with tiny sun-yellow hearts. These plants love sunlight and well-drained soil, so avoid heavy watering. Instead, let the morning dew do a portion of nature's gentle work. What makes this idea so inviting is its imperfection. Driftwood isn't uniform. Tiles aren't cut with precision. And yet, somehow, the pieces belong to one another. It feels like a place where fairytales stretch their legs, where small creatures wander at dusk, where you might sit with a cup of tea and feel the world slow just enough to breathe deeper. You don't need much to begin. A handful of stones, a few weathered sticks, scattered pieces of tile, and patience. Build just one section first, even a foot or two. Watch how it changes the feeling of your garden. Before long, you may find your hands reaching again for old wood and mismatched fragments, not as scraps, but as threads in a story you're quietly stitching into the earth. A whisper of ocean breeze. A hint of cottage magic. A border that doesn't confine but welcomes, inviting nature to flow through every crack, every shimmer, every rooted stem. And in that simplicity, something deeply beautiful blooms. And that's it. A border made from driftwood, tile fragments, soil, and patience. Proof that nature and discarded materials can build something unforgettable. If this style touched your heart or sparked an idea, try it in your own space. Even one small section can change the feeling of a garden. Before you go, tell me in the comments. What materials do you already have at home that could become something beautiful in your garden? If you found warmth and inspiration here, like the video, subscribe, and share your thoughts. Every gesture helps this little dream grow. Thank you for watching, for caring, and for choosing to spend your time here. Until the next project, keep building beauty where you stand.